who presided over Greece's first bailout and who committed to the austerity plan that has so far paralyzed Greek democracy. Mr. Papandreou, welcome to the program.
Very nice to be with you, Christiane.
You know, as I was getting ready for this interview, I remembered sitting down with you more than 2 years ago, back in February 2010, and I asked you the following question. You are in a major crisis at home in Greece. Many are saying if you want our help, you're going to have to take some very painful measures, which it seems your country is not prepared to do and your government is not prepared to do. Am I correct?
I would like to see this crisis as an opportunity to make some major changes, to really turn the page in the Greek economy, but not only the Greek economy, but also change some of the bad practices that unluckily we have had in the past. For example, corruption and lack of transparency, clientelistic politics. We, with the measures we're taking now, will become, I believe, one of a model country in transparency.
So, Mr. Papandreou, that was more than 2 years ago. You talk about creating a model country. What happened?
Well, first of all, I would stick with this as an opportunity to really change the country. And as a matter of fact, 2 years on, we have made major reforms. And this is not something I am saying. This is something that the OECD is saying, because there's a simplistic view that Greece has done nothing. Greece is #1 in reforms amongst OECD countries, according to the OECD. But that doesn't mean there's not a lot of pain. I think one of the major mistakes that was made is that we should have focused more on what I said there, the reforms in Greece, rather than pushing austerity and cutting the deficit so quickly. That, I think, hurt, and it undermined the need to make very deep reforms, which we have done up to a certain point.
How do you feel right now? I hear anger, I hear some sadness at the state that Greece is in.
Well, I think we all feel very bad, and this is one of the reasons is that when we began the program, I would say a wide majority of Greeks were very much in favor of the program, saying this is an opportunity to change. We have been living 2 years of constant insecurity. Who is going to invest, Christiane? Just let me ask you, would you invest in a country when every day there are analysts around the world saying you may or you may not be in the euro? Well, 2 years with no growth, 2 years with no investment, 2 years with lack of consumer confidence, 2 years where people are pulling out their money from the banks. This can't go on. We need to have an end to the saga, a positive end to the saga, where we can feel that we are secure within the euro. And yes, growth will come. Certainly we need to have a wider European policy for growth and for unemployment, but then there will be a sense of security. If we don't have that, we will see more extremes, more nationalism, and undermining not only of Greece, but of the European project itself.
The IMF director, Christine Lagarde, has said the problem with Greece is that they don't want to pay their taxes. What is the root of what's happened in Greece?
We have been, many people have been pontificating and patronizing and moralizing and scapegoating and saying, you know, you Greeks, you are the problem. Now, I would say we Greeks, we have a problem. We are not the problem. If it was that we were the problem, it would be very convenient. Kick Greece out, everything's fine. What would happen to Spain? What about Portugal? What about Italy? What about the whole of the eurozone? We need more cooperation and less simplification and prejudice about what has to happen.
But as you know, Mr. Barroso has explained very clearly that they have given so much money to Greece, much more in terms of percentage than even the Marshall Plan did. So they believe that it's not about the money, it's about the politics. My question to you is, does Greek politics, do Greek politicians have any more credibility, either on the international stage or with the people?
Obviously, we need to keep on track the major reforms, because we Greeks, first of all, want change. We know that there are problems in our system. We know that we're not competitive. We know that we have great potential, whether it's in our agriculture, whether it's in our green energy and our sun, whether it's in our tourism, or whether it's in shipping or aquaculture. We have great potential, but we need to manage our country well. Now, that hasn't been done over the last decades, and that is, of course, what we are paying for.
Do you believe, as many do now, that Greece will exit the euro? There are contingency plans being made all over the place.
Well, I hope not. And you know,
no,
Christiane, another problem we have been facing is that...
Forced?
Well, let me put it this way. The Greek people do not want to exit the euro, and I believe the Greek people already have shown that they have made major sacrifices to stay within the eurozone. But I believe that this is something that also other Europeans have to decide what we want to do with the euro. You know, if Spain reaches a point where it can't pay for its debt, it can't finance its economy, that's going to be a big blow to the euro, and that is why we need deeper integration. You call it a Eurobond, you call it something else, you call it ECB coming in. We need deeper integration. We also need some other things. We need growth. We're in a recession.
We've seen that the fringe parties have done very well around Europe and, of course, in Greece. We've also seen parties and politicians likening the German Chancellor and the German politicians to the Nazis, to Hitler. I mean, is that appropriate? Does that worry you, that kind of populism, nationalism?
We have to get away from this nationalism, Christiane. We have to get away from this simplification of you are to blame or I'm to blame, this scapegoating from whatever side, because that is undermining the basic principle of what Europe is about. Europe is about leaving behind our ethnic differences, our national differences, and working together to solve these major problems. And the major problem was, of course, the financial system and a euro system which was just under construction. It hasn't been completed. So let's look at the real issues and let's see how we can turn Greece around to be, as I said earlier, 2 years ago, a model country for Europe and for Southeastern Europe and the Mediterranean. Don't forget, Christiane, you know these issues here. We are a linchpin to the Middle East, to the Northern Africa, to the Balkans. It's very important that Greece succeeds even for geopolitical, geostrategic reasons for Europe.
Do you believe that if Alexis Tsipras wins and is able to make a coalition or wins outright, that will be good for success?
I would have hoped that we already would have had a government from the previous election. Obviously, his party is responsible for not forming a government. So that was not obviously the most credible of acts. But I would hope now that we will form a government and that everybody will realize what the real parameters and what the real challenges are. We need to change Greece. Whether austerity is too stiff or not is a different question. But we need to go deep into reform. We began it 2 years ago. We've continued it. And it needs to continue to be a competitive, sustainable, and proud Greece.
Former Prime Minister Papandreou, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Christiane. Nice talking to you.
And so who does work the most hours in Europe? Indeed, it's the Greeks. Take a look at the story behind the story at amanpour.com.